Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name's Bryan C.P. Steele, and I will be your nerd today and every day that you come and watch my show on this crazy little channel thing. So, as I like to start with every episode, the week in the life of Bryan. Let's unravel this week. It has been a crazy week, a good week. Lots of work done. I turned in a first draft on a very cool Dungeon in a Box segment for their season 3. Hopefully that goes over well. I got paid from a project that was done 6 months ago. If you guys have ever paid attention to some of my stuff where I talk about freelancing, when you deal with some companies, I generally like to have, when I talk about my wages, is that half up front and then half upon delivery. There are some companies out there that will stick to their guns and that will be like, no, this is the way we do it, and that's just the way it is. One of the hardest things as a freelancer is knowing that your work is done, you have nothing left to do with it, it's in someone else's hands, and you still haven't been paid for it. So crossing that off of my my ledger, big weight off my shoulders from this week. So there we go. I mean, I love the company. I'm not going to drag anybody through the mud or anything, but I love the company and I love the product that we made. I just wish that their wage structure and the way they deliver it would be brought up to 2020 a little bit. Let's see what else. Both of the companies that keep me on retainer have stepped up some stuff this week. Let's see, initially, over at Big Child Creatives, the art studio that makes amazing miniatures and like art busts and things, and we just recently released a few new kind of how to paint fantasy miniature step-by-step books from some of the best painters in the industry. So on that, I know we also hired a new graphic designer for the inside of our products. My boss had a new baby. Well, his wife did anyway. But so everything over at Big Child has been kind of a shakeup. And earlier this week, I got just slammed with internal emails from the company about what we're going to be doing, where we're moving stuff, so if I have been quiet, if you're a store out there and you've talked to me about trying to get stuff in your store, or if I've got an email sitting in my account or whatever waiting for it, hopefully things are moving much quicker soon. On top of that, there's some really cool stuff in the 2020 pipe. So that's been a good kind of a fun little barrage of information at the beginning of the week. And then now toward the end of the week, I get a second barrage of information from my other company that keeps me on, and that's Crafty Games. So Crafty Games, I recently have started to talk a little more openly about what they've got me doing, or at least kind of hinting at it on the Facebook page, because we haven't really been given the green light to go, okay, this is the deal. But I can say that it is role-playing related, and it's gonna be a very cool foray into a world that I have not written for before. And if all goes well and we really make things happen, I can't promise anything, but the chances are pretty good, hopefully, that I might even be able to run a couple of events, kind of pre-release sort of things, hints, one of those, this is the beta release, no one knows about this. maybe even as close as Gen Con this year. So, like I said, it's been a crazy cool week. I've been doing all kinds of research reading. Sadly, not a lot of commission painting getting done this week, but that's okay because I got to keep all my employers happy. And such is the life of the freelancer. Such is the life of the professional nerd. Let's see, what else? Anything family related? My lovely bride got a new job. She is working. She's just now getting started, like an hour ago. Where she is helping the housebound and the elderly, kind of take care of the things that they can't do. She's working for a private firm here in town. Basically, so if maybe they can't wash their own dog, or maybe they can't get out to get groceries, or they can get the groceries but they can't get them all put away, or maybe it's just, hey, can you do me a favor and make me meals for the next 4 or 5 days? Like whatever. Basically, it's an in-house care service, and so she's helping out there. But also, when it rains, it pours. She also just took a part-time position at the Northside Music here in town, which is apparently like a kind of a big deal in piano repair. Which I know a lot of people are like, piano repair? What a strange thing. Well, Natalie has always been very interested in music. She knows how to play a handful of instruments. I believe piano is one of them. And she saw that these people were hiring for a sales associate slash repair technician, but that they were going to do training on the job. And so she went and talked to them, and it seems to be a really nice fit as far as the hours and everything goes. So they're picking her up part-time with the option of eventually maybe moving into full-time should she really kind of take to the gig. But while she was there, I'm going to brag a little bit on this company that I know almost nothing about. They got like phone calls from across the country about people who want their particular piano to be fixed, that they're going to ship a piano, like a full-on, like, the kind of piano that Tom and Jerry would drop on each other, or, that sort of thing. They'll ship it all the way out here to Indiana to have these people fix it, and because apparently, or restore it, because apparently these guys are really big in the restoration and repair business. And like well known. So I gotta say, not what I anticipated. As far as like what Natalie would pick up for a job, when she left the bakery, but it's pretty cool. It's a neat. I'm intrigued. And it seems like it's the right, a couple of part-time gigs where she can kind of mold and massage her hours. Is probably going to be better for her illness, for her MG, and definitely better for us because we're a one car household, so we can kind of adjust her schedule and my schedule and whatnot. So just been, like I said, it's been a pretty brilliant week, pretty good week. On top of all of that, the last couple of pieces fit together for my I know I'm talking a lot about this multiple weeks in a row, for my Transformers miniatures rule set. The last couple of pieces kind of landed together and started glowing like the Ark of the Covenant, melting Nazi faces all around my block. And I'm very eager to get my Decepticons painted and get I honestly I can't wait to try and play. Combine that with the fact that my wonderful son the other day saw that I was working on my Transformers binder, and he goes, "Is that going to be a game that I can play?" And first off, immediately, because I'm a giant sap, try to clear the tears from thine eyes. But it was like, well, yeah, absolutely, buddy. And he goes, "Is it going to be too?" He didn't use the word complex. That's the word I want to use. Maybe I said too crazy. It's going to be too crazy or too hard. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, no way. The system's going to be, pretty straightforward, and he's been able to play other games without an issue, and he's taking to D&D like a fish to water. So I don't think it'll be an issue, but I'm looking forward to blasting some Energon down the way, and who knows, maybe. If everything goes right and I record some cool battle reports, even if they're just for fun, maybe I'll put them up on the channel, and you guys can be like, man, I wish somebody would buy these rules or let Bryan release them, because, IP law and stuff. All right. So let's get to it. I got a lot to talk about today. Let's take a look at the inspiration for today's for today's wonderful topic, which, by the way, episode 40. Can you believe it? 40. I've done 40 of these. It's not quite a year. I'm not there yet. I don't know what I'm gonna do for my year anniversary, but either way, I don't know. I never knew whether or not I was going to stick with this long enough, but this is fun. I enjoy talking to y'all. I enjoy hearing back from you guys, the comments. I enjoy getting the random free fun things in the mail. But no, it's just I dig this. It's a fun way to get some of the chaos that's in my brain out into the world, and if all goes well, maybe I'll start being able to do some like legitimate unboxings and maybe new product reviews and stuff like that as things get bigger and the channel gets more subscribers. A couple of the companies have contacted to try and do reviews. That's one of the very first things that they ask, is how many subscribers we've got. So please, if you aren't already a subscriber, slam that subscribe button, and definitely share it with your friends if they've got if you've got like I itch my ear. I've got like one of those Wrath of Khan bugs steering my brain. But yeah, if you've got anybody that you're like, they should see this, send it to them, send them the link, share the link. I try to make hopefully every once in a while the topics poignant to gamers that are like, man, I wonder if I've had this issue. So let's just go that route and hope for the best. But today's inspiration comes from our t-shirt of the week from Armor Class 10, and that would be the Critical Nope. I saw this shirt in the gallery, and it's not like, I've seen some that are R-rated, or rather PG-13, because you can drop an F-bomb like 3 times in a movie. But I saw this one, and it's not like proclaiming, it's not yelling, God, I screwed up. It's just nope. And I really do think that it embodies occasionally what happens when we get into one of our games, whether it's role-playing or D&D or a miniatures game, and that inevitable one comes up, that inevitable the single number that you didn't want to see happens, and you could get angry, but you just kind of go, nope, didn't happen. That's what this shirt embodies to me, is a critical failure that is, just par for the course. It's been one of those days. Yep, this goblin's gonna knock me out. Anything but a 1? Nope, there's the 1. And that is the topic for today, is making the most out of the worst. So it's real easy. I've said a lot of times here on the channel to try and stay positive, to try and keep your chin up, even in dark times. We all deal with depression, some of us deeper than others, but that it is important to try and put that positivity out there, and even if things aren't going right, maybe try and keep that chin up and try and keep looking at, hey, at least it's not this. Like don't you try and take it that one step further. And what today's topic is about is when things, and it's kind of a two-parter, is when bad things happen, or when we are handed unwanted unwanted troubles, that if we are smart and we are adaptive, we can turn that around and try and make a better situation out of it. And I'm going to take it from multiple angles. From a life standpoint, to get all philosophical, to wax philosophical, is, things can be bad and things can get real bad, but there should always be something that you have to fall back on to remind you that there is still good in your life. There is still good in this world, in your world specifically. Because the last thing you want to do, and I'll freely say this, is the last thing you want to do when you're down, when you're blue, is have someone show you how awesome things are for them. Call it selfish, call it, reverse Schadenfreude, but what it is if you're down, if you're blue and you're like, man, everything sucks, I can't pay this bill this month, God, I don't know if I'm gonna have gas for the car next week, and then one of your buddies is like, hey man, it's cool, I just got a raise, let's go out and get some dinner, it's on me. That's not to say you don't appreciate the gesture, but in that moment, in that dark moment, that nope moment, your instinct might very well be, damn it, I don't want to sit there and revel in your raise because my life is bad, because my situation sucks. So I'm not saying find it elsewhere in outside world. I'm saying find that spark, find that positivity, find something that you need that to try to lift you out in your world. Whether it's your dogs, whether it's the cats, whether it's call a friend from a long time ago and just be like, hey, I missed you. How have you been? Or for me, this is going to sound cliche. For me, it's my kid. It's my kids. It's if I can have a good night with the kids, I can forget most negative stuff, even if it's just for a couple of hours, and get that stuff off my shoulders. And if it's out of your lungs and it's out of your brain for that long, it might give you an opportunity to find something else to attach to, something else to build on. Or even look at that negative thing from a different perspective. So I guess what I'm saying is, don't, if something bad happens, don't automatically attribute it to, things are always the worst for me, or typical, this happens all the time, and why do I even try? It's a minor setback. Hell, it could be a major setback, but it's still just a setback. So do your damnedest to stay positive on the real life side of things. Now let's get rid of that philosophy stuff and start talking about legitimately like what I'm good at, what my nerdism, my professional geekery allows me to do when bad things happen. So if you're a player, let's start with role-playing games. If you're a player and critical miss, you screw up that saving throw. Now, it is possible that it costs you your character's life. You fall down a ravine, you drink the bad poison, you land in the bat swarm, which I know some of you are laughing, but we've talked about this, like 10 most lethal D&D monsters, the top 3 are swarms. So you look at this, and those sorts of things could suck. But even then, even if your character is dead, gone, your death saves are done, your game master looks at you and goes, your body's even gone. They don't even have any bits of you to try and resurrect. You know, like, you are just in awash with hopelessness about this character. Take a second, mourn him, or her, or it. Just mourn them, be like, man, that really sucks. We'll have to talk about this later. And then start immediately planning what you want to play next. I don't know if it's about you. I don't know about you guys, but I am normally, game-wise, at my finest when I am, like, I'm almost at my most excited when I've got a brand new character. I want to figure out his accent. I want to figure out his personality. You know, is this the guy who buys around for everybody at the pub? Is this the guy who, you know, walks into every meeting, you know, hand on hilt, and when they say no weapons please, he goes, screw you, this is my religion, you know, Mandalorian style. You know, like, does he have a particular cadence to his voice? Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Is he somewhere in between? Does he even really know? And then, once you've got some of that work, you can start getting excited about maybe working with your dungeon master, your game master, or whatever, on fitting him into the story. So that way he's not just you turn the corner, welcome adventurers, I hear you need a new wizard. I'm here to wizard for you. So, like, you can start building and get that creativity going. And it's not to say that it isn't sad that a character goes, that a bad die roll or a bad situation, or hell, even if it's hard fought, you know, like, when a bad thing happens to your character, you have every right to be bummed out. But just like in real life, that character has laid some story. You know, that character is ink on a page in the story of your life. And maybe it's time for you to let others enjoy what has happened to them and now build new stuff, build a new thing. I mean, and there's always that part where, you know, a lot of players joke about having my new character be related to my last character, or you know, my new character will come and avenge my last one, or anything like that. Generally speaking, I find that a little trite. Tripe is intestines. I find it to be a little intestines. I find it to be a little trite to have your new character be related to your old character, unless it's like a birthright campaign or something that's designed to do that. But if everybody at your table loves it, if your DM loves it, and if you're okay with it, do it. Enjoy yourself. Take that of the peaks and valleys of role playing, that valley of losing your character, and turn it into the peak of the next character being awesome. And that's the kind of thing I think in a role playing game that we can do. Now, I took the extreme of a character dying, but you can do little things along the way. Let's say that you're playing the pickpocket and you screw up grabbing the nobleman walked by and he flaunted, you know, the DM flaunted the guy's like fancy ring or fancy pocket watch, and you're like, all right, here we go, and you flub it and you go your game master will now have the opportunity to build off of your negative stuff. But you also have an opportunity. It's a cool role-playing moment of having your hand caught in the cookie jar. You know, can you talk your way out of it? Can you run? Can you break into song and dance like Aladdin and have a pet monkey that helps you out? You know, or whatever the case may be. You know, you could look at it as, oh, God, my dice suck, and I can't. I just wanted the stupid watch, and God, figures I get caught. Or you could hand the guy, you know, pluck the watch out of his pocket, throw it on the ground, and start screaming mimic and hit it with a stick. And when the guy's like, "What are you doing?" Be like, "I saw it had spider legs. It was trying to attack you. There's mimic assassins everywhere." That's if I was the game master and my pickpocket did something, and like a player did something like that, I would at least give the noblemen and the guards a moment of like, "Hey, do some insight checks. Hey, thief, do a deception check, or at least maybe a performance." Because or hell, one of the other characters throws down their own pocket watch, or throws down another something and goes, "Oh, this one too," and starts smashing something on the other side of the road. You can turn a bad thing into a good thing like that if you're a fast thinker, and you can not just take it as I failed. You can take it as, I failed. What am I gonna do now? And try and roll with it, and try and make something more out of it. If it's something along the lines of, so one of my favorite classes in D&D, and people will laugh at me, I love the Wild Mage. I adore the sorcerer who taps into the chaos of magic itself and like throws these spells willy-nilly, trying to get these wild surges, and considering some of them are so stupid that are like, all right, well, I'm green, and it's a role-playing moment. That human walks into the bar, he's head to toe green. The rest of the bar might look at him strangely, or be like, "What the hell happened to you, sir?" Well, my magic, or the one that we'll see. The one I know, one of the results is like a unicorn arrives, like summons out of nowhere for like D3 rounds or something. How crazy is that? Unicorn's like a challenge rating like 6 or 7 monster. It shows up and you're like, "Oh, hey, unicorn. Sorry to have disturbed you when you were doing something, but maybe give us a hand." I love the erratic nature of someone who, you look at like Jurassic Park and the guy with chaos theory. Wild mages are chaos theory, and that doesn't make them evil, and it doesn't make them destructive, and you never want them around. It makes them unpredictable. And in my personal like role-playing repertoire is, if I play a wild mage, it's probably someone with some serious personality issues, maybe some mental some mental instabilities, some voices that he talks to, and when discussing the power of magic, they're in awe of it. That because the winds of magic blow the way they want to. I am merely the mouthpiece for the goddess of magic, or whatever the case may be. And that's something that I would like to do. And I know a lot of people view the wild surges as a drawback, as, why would you do that? Why would you take a wild surge, or why would you ever do the class ability? It's like advantage on a roll to get, a wild surge in the next hour whenever the DM wants it. And it's because I find it fun to not have everything planned out like a math equation. I like that life is ups and downs, and it's a little crazy. And I like having to think on my toes. I like having to role play a bad situation, hence the mimic pocket watch thing. And so I think that's my personal shtick when it comes to role playing games is, yeah, losing a character can suck, and that can be like the epitome of being down, and having a long string of nothing happening can also sort of suck. But I've been through sessions where swing and a miss, swing and a miss, swing and a miss. Whereas every time that my character's supposed to do something, you fail. It's a little disheartening, but you also can take that, maybe spin it. That particular character, maybe, when you go to the next marketplace, you try and sell that short sword, because it's defective. Obviously, it could never, it could not hit goblins. Or you take it to the temple to be re-blessed because it must have picked up some kind of kobold curse, because I couldn't strike down a single one of the little bastards. Like, figure out how to make those down moments, those negative spins, figure out how to make those cooler and make them into better moments for everyone at the table. More memorable moments. Very few people are going to remember down the line that time that you stole that guy's pouch full of coin. They will remember the time that you got caught with your hand in the noble's pocket and used it as a way to introduce yourself to the guards, or get into the prison, because ultimately one of the tasks in the city is for a jailbreak. Like, there's all kinds of things that can happen that people will remember. You succeeding in that sword swing is probably not going to be the most memorable. Oh, how many times do you remember when I did 48 points of damage with my Hunter's Mark longbow hexblade warlock? Probably not. I mean, they'll remember that your character was really good with his magic bow and killed lots of people. Okay. But what they'll probably remember is the time that guy tried something and the wizard counterspelled him with a shh. Like, oh, what? No! Those are the moments we tend to remember when the drama is highest. And when we are succeeding left and right, just succeeding all over the place, there's no drama, there's no challenge. So that's what I mean by, in a role-playing game, take those negative moments, take those note moments, and turn them into something better. If you're a dungeon master, the world is your oyster when it comes to note moments. You have the most power to turn your bad dice, or even rather your players' bad dice, or bad decisions, or bad moments, into entire story elements, into plot arcs, into oh man, it'd be awesome. We can get the whole party in the jail if this happens. Like, that's the kind of thing that you could use to your advantage. And I say that a good dungeon master should be able to. Does it suck if your big bad villain can't hit somebody, or just walks into the combat with the player characters arrogant and my stats say that I'm going to destroy you, and like your first 3 attacks are god awful misses, and your opponent and your player characters are like, all right, crit, poison, unconscious, way of the open palm. It can be comical if your dude's has done that bad. And in fact, maybe, unless it's big in your plot and you've already kind of written where you're going with it, maybe it's that this guy is not the big bad after all. Maybe this guy is kind of a facade, like he's always been Billy Badass because no one's really stood up to him before, or whatever. You can do what you want with it. But in a role-playing game, I think that there are drawbacks and negatives and note moments can turn into some of the best stories and some of the most memorable character moments, even if it is your character dying moments, that you'll be able to tell other players and your friends and other gamers for years. Let's move over a little bit to like miniature gaming. Miniature gaming, there's 2 different mentalities of miniature gaming. Is when you're like, tournament play, must win, must destroy, and having a note moment, having, okay, anything but snake eyes, and I evaporate your dude. Oh, here's snake eyes. Oh, now that I rolled snake eyes, if I roll a 1, then my guy goes away. Bad dice can make for a pretty awful gaming moment. And it's hard, and especially if you're in a competitive scene, it's real hard to bounce back from something like that. But I guess at the end of the day, the big thing that you got to remember in a miniatures game is just the sheer volume of what you're rolling, the number of actions, the number of dice, the number or card flips or whatever you're doing, depending on the game you're playing, that it will hopefully work out. Your statistics, what you have learned over the years, as far as like patterns and statistics and whatnot, that will hopefully pan out. And take this low moment as, hey, there should be some highs coming along here pretty soon to start making that balanced bell curve again. Or start maybe if all the penalties and stuff are really stacking against you and your dice are really not, like the skills and the penalties and all the modifiers are really making it hard for you, maybe maybe take a little bit of a breather on, don't play so aggressive. Don't, if that your next 5 activations for these 3 units are going to be a pretty big drawback if I go diving into combat, maybe don't go diving into combat. Think of it from a different standpoint and go, all right, if I do this, I'm probably going to lose. I have a sliver of a chance of coming out on top, but I'm probably going to lose. Or, again, most miniature games give you an opportunity to, like, take up defensive positions, move out of the way, or whatever you need to do to try and mitigate what you are seeing and what you are noticing as a negative moment. Or if you're having a particularly negative moment, sometimes you can use that to kind of sucker in your opposition. When you realize that this unit over here has rolled nothing but 1s and 2s because all the penalties have been put on them, throw them out there like sacrificial lambs, but just make sure that you've got somebody ready to sweep up, whatever's left. Whoever gets tired murdering off your sacrificial lambs, you're ready to deal with them. You're ready to send someone in and be like, "Ha! You took the bait. May have been unwanted bait. It may have been expensive bait, but it was bait nonetheless." One thing that I will say, and I will say this just real briefly before I move on into the last, the last idea of making most out of nothing, is dice are just dice. Unless they are cheating dice, unless they are legitimately weighted to one side or damaged or a mispour, or the dice are dice. Some are considered to be more precise than others based off of like the laser etching and and that sort of thing. But if you are rolling pieces of plastic or bone or metal or whatever, do not believe, and you can have your superstitions, but don't blame the dice. Don't blame a curse on your dice or, but I had all my dice 6s up. You can blame it on yourself and say, that's my superstition. I have to do this to make myself feel good, or to make myself not highlight every bad roll that I have. But do not for a minute be like, well, these dice are terrible, these dice are better, unless they're literally like mispoured or broken, and you shouldn't be using those anyway, because then you're cheating, whether for you or your opponent. So that's all I got to really say on the whole, dice curse, sort of thing. Dice are just dice. Some are cooler, some are more precise, but they're still all random number generating things that do not care about you, do not care about the game that you're playing, and they definitely 100% do not pay attention to what they're rolling. They're just dice. All right, so let's move into the last thing. So the part of this topic, it's a little bit of a, I don't want to say a stretch, but it is. I wanted to include it because I got to have dinner with my good friend. My good friend Bryan Rowe, who runs a website / Facebook group / gaming group called Trash Bash International. It used to be called Trash Bash. What? Trash Bash Pieces? Trash Bash Parts? It was the Trash Bash. That he started it basically a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. In the very beginnings of Games Workshop's 40K, more than 40,000, one of their designers, Rick Priestley, made a tank. That was when the company really had not started making vehicle models yet. They really just sort of had a handful of dudes, mostly Space Marines, a handful of weird like chaos demons and orcs and stuff. He made he in the rules, there were rules for designing your own vehicle, and he made a tank, a hover tank, out of some bits and bobs, some plastic card, and a deodorant bottle. And the deodorant grav tank is famous. Rick Priestley's deodorant grav tank is famous because it is from a time in gaming where, especially miniature gaming, non-historical models just didn't exist. You know, there weren't very many companies that made even like a space orc or a space elf. It didn't happen. I mean, hell, there weren't very many companies that made regular elves and orcs. You know, like, you had army men, you had tanks, you had helicopters, you had historicals, most of which were like 15 millimeter scale. So Rick Priestley was like, you know what, in our world we've got tanks, and I'm going to make a hover tank. And he made a hover tank out of a deodorant bottle. In fact, I have a cool picture to show you of the original the original deodorant grav tank from Rick Priestley. And so, I mean, it's cool. I mean, it's if you looked at it, you probably, if somebody glanced at it, you'd be like, that's kind of a weird little thing. But you might not. I mean, in today's standards, you would definitely know that's not a Games Workshop model. But like, if somebody would have brought that to my gaming club in junior high, I would have been like, well, that's a neat little thing. Where'd that come from? And what it is that it's a trash bash. It's basically Rick Priestley took bits and bobs and a non-model piece of plastic and turned it into something for his game, turned it into a vehicle. And it became the single most famous trash bash of all time. Well, my friend Bryan Rowe started. I know he's one of the admins over there, and I think he actually started it too. Is this a trash bash contest every year? He would basically do a call out and be like, all right, well, at least 75% of the model has to be, you know, non-miniature stuff, and it's got to be like household items. And every once in a while he would do one that was like, you know, bathroom items only or kitchen items only, or you know, no action figure parts. You know, like he would have themes to it. And some of the stuff that would come out of these trash bashes are breathtaking. Like, you look at this and go, hot damn. You know, it's insane that someone could, you know, be like, look at it and go, huh, that egg carton kind of looks like, kind of looks like a moisture farm habitat from Star Wars. Terrain. And that happened a lot. That, you know, a lot of people would make terrain out of, you know, I know I made several farm silos out of the Quaker Oats big tall cans when I was in high school. I know for a while there are a lot of people, before there was a real model for it, was doing modified pop can drop pods. You know, there's all kinds of different things you can do to turn everyday items or everyday trash into something cool for your game or for your table or, you know, whatever. And it's Trash Bash International. It's this Facebook group that Bryan runs, that does this on a competitive level. Like some of these things that they make are so sweet. And the reason why this is kind of part of this topic today is that making the most out of the worst is not. It's not to say that a deodorant can is the worst, or egg carton is the worst, or anything like that. That's not. That's or these trash bashes are. I'm looking down my nose at them because it's not the real model. No, in fact, it actually I'm always sort of left a little breathless when I see one of these trash bashes that is just phenomenal. And you're like, man, it's not even just a paint job. It's, they found all the right parts. How did they know that this was going to fit here? This was going to fit there. So as a community, the Trash Bash International people, they put up a lot of works in progress. Be like, all right, here's what this cool communication silo looks like. Here's what it looked like before I primed it. And you're like, what? That's a piece of sunglasses. It's all kinds of really, really cool stuff. And that kind of goes hand in hand with what I was talking about, is that you can turn anything into something positive with the right kind of, the little bit of elbow grease, the right kind of looking at it from a different angle. And this has come up a little extra because I had dinner with Brian Rowe just this last week, and we were talking about games and kind of our game theory and design theory and all. We got deep. We got deep as nerds, and he had asked me if I popped over to Trash Bash lately, and I realized that it had been a while. I judged for one of his competitions a few years back, but I hadn't really looked at it very close lately. And so I popped over there, and I was blown away. Just some of the stuff that, it has come, the kind of, I don't want to say competitive nature, but the sort of, the evolution of the art of taking these refuse items, cleaning them up, carving them up, and turning them into new cool stuff for miniature games is phenomenal. And it got me thinking. It got me thinking about, there are game settings, we'll say things like Fallout, where in your game you take bits and bobs and things and scrap them together and turn it into an item here, an item there. And there's a certain art to the mentality of taking the unwanted and turning it into the essential, or turning it into a beloved piece. So today, actually, a little bit of history. My son has a tearaway calendar. Basically, a day every day he tears away. It's got a weird fact or a weird thing about about a place or whatever. And one of the things about a few weeks ago, it talked about the Podskatonics, and that's all one word. It's a Russian word that is a pewter or silver or gold cup that is designed to hold the glassware that you would put hot tea or hot cider or coffee or something in. And traditionally the reason for it is because it won't get hot, so it doesn't burn your hand. So your servants could bring a completely fresh cup of a new substance, and you could basically flip it out of your Podskatonic without having to touch the offensive glass or whatever. And they're very pretty. And so, because I am a big fan at the role-playing game table of having props, if you can, whether it's a sword in the background, or I'm not a big fan of music during games because it's hard for me to hear sometimes. But I do love when people dress up a little bit, or put on an accent, or if their dice bag is decorated with feathers and things that their character would have, or seashells if they're a sea elf or whatever. One of the things that I have always admired are the people who have drinking horns or big ale mugs that they bring to the game. And so I saw this Podskatonics things and I was like, man, those are cool. Those are neat. And so I fetched a pair of them. They're traditional Russian, like it's got these cool like the Romani dancers on it. But it's a pewter Poxkatonic that I got for relatively cheap on eBay. I got a pair of them, but they did not come with they didn't come with the glass. They were just the Poxkatonic. And so today I popped out to this morning early. I had to go to the pharmacy anyway. I stopped over at the local Goodwill store, and I brought one of the Poxkatonics with me so I can make sure they fit. And I went through all the glasses and was like, nope, nope, nope. And I found a pair that fit perfectly. And how cool will this be when it's filled with like tea or coffee or something at the game table when I can be game mastering and occasionally like take an in character sip. I think it's cool, and if you don't, I don't know. But what it did while I was there, Goodwill reminded me that there's so much cool stuff that people throw away. I got a new rinse cup for my paint desk, and then while I was there, I got I found a toy car that I ripped the wheels out of to make to help put together one of the objective counters for my Transformers game. So it's basically just a bunch of spare parts and things that in the game you will use to heal chassis points or hold for victory points, that sort of thing. And it goes hand in hand with some of the other objectives that I made using extra stuff that I had lying around in the Bits Towers. So I'm going to lean over here. So these are my Bits Towers. They are drawers filled with spare parts, bits, tools, silicone molds, terrain maps. It's just pounds upon pounds of extra stuff that my hobby rigs have accumulated over the years. And every once in a while, something will bing, and I'll go, oh yeah, and I'll dive in and I'll find something. I got a lot of plastic card and magnets and stuff in there too. But one of the things that I have over there is I've got a couple of collections of little plastic gems, little gemstones that I use for basing if I want like a jagged rock or anything. But also in this case, basically it'll be a chunk of, because I'll paint this, it'll be a chunk of Cybertron. It'll be a piece of the fallen planet, which will be an objective, an objective in the scenarios. And then while I was in there, I found little, these are so perfect, little glass cubes that I think are from King of Tokyo, I believe, or King of New York. I want to say, but I had a set of purple in there, and they're tiny little square cubes, just like in the cartoon, that eventually I'm going to make molds for so we can paint more or whatever. But I made two sizes. I made the Energon snack size, just a little handful of them on a small base, which has its own rules in the game. And then there's the actual crate. We see these in the cartoon a lot, where it's basically a big stack of Energon on a wagon, or sometimes in some of the cartoons, if the artist wasn't feeling terribly adventurous, they would just kind of be pushing this sort of floating stack. But then this is another type of objective / resource in the game. But I realized this is perfect. Like these the little Energon cube things, those, if I could find a way to get thousands of these little cubes and then assemble them or sell them to have other people assemble them as their objectives, whatever. I'm probably going to do resin casting of it because it makes it one piece and it makes it easier to carry around. But I love the originals because they actually are like energon colored. But that's another example of taking something that was basically just gathering dust. It was extra parts, extra garbage eventually, and turning it into like I can't. I was trying to think of a good way of representing the different energon volumes. You know, do we do an energon plume? Do we do just a counter with like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? I was trying to figure out. I was like, but ideally there'd be a physical representation in a miniatures game. Bam! Those little glass cubes are perfect. I wanted a junk pile for spare parts. Bam! Little Hot Wheels car parts. You know, you take a wrench to them. You know, it's. This is not a trash bash in the traditional sense, insofar that it's not really trash. It's just little tiny components from something else that I'm repurposing. But it's still taking something that was not intended for that and making a hell of a use out of it. And again, you know, I know for the last month I've been, you know, Transformers, because I do eventually want to try and see if I can't market this book, but or this set of rules. But either way, these are going to get put to good use instead of just sitting in my bits tower doing nothing. It is. I think that it's imperative for us to not discount extra parts. Games Workshop has gotten so good about here's your box set, and there's like 40 extra parts on the sprue for, you know, decoration, or if you want to make your guys a little cooler, you know, maybe put some stuff around the base or whatever. Hang on to that stuff. Make a bits tower. You know, like find a way to use it in the future. You know, you never know when you might. I ran a Dungeon in a Box episode this last weekend, and it occurred to me that I didn't have a flying sword model or a smothering rug for the animated objects that I knew that they were going to run into. So I took a spare sword of the bits thing and glued it to glued it standing up on a base. Boom, there's your flying sword. And when it came to the smothering rug, I took a tiny little square of fabric from one of those eyeglass polishing kits, cut it out to be roughly 2 squares on the map, and then dipped the bottom half in super glue, and then kind of pinched it so it sort of stands up and floats at a target. So, you know, again, was it super fancy? Absolutely not. Did we all get a chuckle that I made a smothering rug model for when inevitably it was going to attack? Yes. And we all laughed about it. And in fact, we took a second, a couple of the players took a second to look at it and go, man, that's a good smothering rug. So that mentality of turning unwanted into wanted, or in the case of like moments in life or moments in the game, is turning a nope into a positive moment or a fun moment, instead of dwelling on the negative and just sitting there and be like, oh, nothing ever works out, everything sucks, my character's dead, you know, or I can't ever hit anything, everything's always terrible, blah. Or taking it out on your fellow players because their dice are doing well, or maybe their character has the right skills for that thing at the moment, and they're sort of, in your mind, showing off, but in actuality, you're just not having the greatest of luck with your dice, and his or her stuff is kicking ass. It's way too easy to internalize that, to personalize it, and to turn it into a negative moment where the rest of your day is ruined, or the scene is ruined, or you know, you have a chip on your shoulder going into the next thing. What you ought to do is look at it and go, all right, well, that sucks. How am I going to turn this into a smile? How am I going to turn this into a fun remainder of the day? I want to be having fun here. I don't want to be sad or upset. I don't want to sit here and look at my the one staring back at me and be like, "Oh, you're the worst ever," or tear up my character sheet dramatically when I die. You don't want to do all those things because you want to have fun like everyone else, and you want others to want to have fun with you too. So take a second, take a trip down Trash Bash Lane, turn the bad stuff into something cool, turn your bad moments into good moments, and always remember that at the end of the day, you're going to remember the big moments, not necessarily always the good ones. It's something that us old guys and us professional darks we've learned to see, and I hope that I'll have some good stories for you of my nope moments down the road. But as the case may be, this week we've got all kinds of cool stuff. I got some games being played. I got a tournament being played. I think I even have some D&D somewhere along the lines. But all of those things are hopefully going to be the spawning of good moments, smiles, laughter, lots of joy. You know how it is. Trying to, hopefully next week when I check in with you guys, the week in the life of Bryan will be nothing but thumbs up and awesomeness. But for now, tell me about your drawback moments. Tell me about the times that you, in the comments, tell me about when you turned a negative thing into a cool thing, or post up pictures of some of your Trash Bash stuff, or go to, I'll put the Trash Bash International link in the description. Go join that community. Show them your awesome stuff and look at the stuff in their gallery. Who knows? Maybe Bryan and I will do something combined between the channel and Trash Bash and some kind of contest or something. Whatever happens, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, comment below. All of that stuff's awesome, and it would be really cool if you did it all. But more importantly than anything else, go out there, have fun, and play some games. See you in a week.